I like to write both.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start all over again because for the simple fact that I'm sorry about this, but the dumb thing, I just got an update on this and I used to have it. It was easier settings and everything like that. To start all over again. I'm sorry about this. It's supposed to record. It didn't record it like it was supposed to because of the new settings that I guess it has on. Reintroduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Dr. Emmaunel Boakye Anim, veterinary doctor, of course. I am currently a house officer at the University of Ghana Small Animal Teaching Hospital, and I double as a research assistant for the faculty of the School of Veterinary Medicine. I run a small graphic design studio with my colleagues, some of my friends, and I like to write, so I've published a couple of books and have an online course for productivity on Google Calendar as well. So, I mean, in brief, that's who I am.
Oh, nice. Tell me about your books because I got like 30 of them, different ones. And I have one that's also published pretty well. It's going to be in a movie here soon. It's been on TV and stuff like that. Tell me a little bit about those two books.
So, currently, I self-publish my own ebooks on a platform on my own website and resource page. Currently, my website is down, so I use a Notion site as my temporary website. I figure out options for a better website. I've published 5 so far. The recent one is Why Advice Doesn't Work, a practical guide to making information work for you. I have one on growth, the 10 understandings of growth. I have one on the Christian faith, pursuing God. And then I have one on church media. I'm a media guy in church, so I have one on church media foundations, that's the title. And the resource material, which I'm developing into a proper book, Productive Digital Calendar. It's actually a reference material for the course I created on using calendar tools.
Yeah. There's one thing I would give self-published young authors a piece of advice. Publish it on Lulu and Amazon Kindle direct.
Sure.
KDP. I did it back in 2010, got it on there. And what is you obviously have a doctor by your name. What is your degree in, the doctoral degree? What's that in?
Doctor of Veterinary Medicine.
Oh, wow. That's a fantastic. Would not know nothing about that subject. That's amazing. Awesome. Great job. Congratulations. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
Oh, I'm 27.
27?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I did go into a PhD myself when I was about 25, but never finished. So I get, yeah, it was very difficult. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. How about this? We're gonna ask 5 straight up questions now, and you just go along and speak what you got to speak. How do you make time for both your vet work and tech pursuits?
So for my tech pursuits and what I do as a veterinarian and all the other stuff I do, one thing I like to do on a personal level is plan and premeditate a lot. So for instance, like this meeting, I looked at what I wanted to see, think about it, maybe sometimes about 10 or 20 times, just to look at all other possible options. So in my tech pursuits, right now I'm trying to learn how to better code because I want to code my website from scratch without using any other CMS or, yes, I'll reference some of these, but trying to learn the tech aspect of it, at least even if I don't do it myself, in the end, getting the experience of coding and how to program will give me a better hands because I have other passions that I want to do. So making time is actually me evaluating my goals and then planning ahead of time, premeditating, okay, in a day, this particular day, what would I want to do with regards to tech in the office, in between patients? How much time do I have after I go through a whole patient workup? How do I want to make use of the time that I have left? How do I want to spend my lunch time? Do I want to just go and eat and chat around, or I want to eat whilst I'm eating, I'm doing something related to tech? So that's like a summary of how I go about it. And I think it's necessary for each and every one of us, because it's easy for you to take up your phone, swipe, open social media, and doom scroll during your lunchtime or any other time. But if you have your goals set, you know what you want to achieve with regards to what you want to do, then I think tech is one of the best ways, because you can set automations. Now, before this meeting, I had 5 different notifications on my phone. If you look behind me, my laptop and my workspace is just, my home space is just behind me. I mean, I get notifications, my tablet is here. Any device that I'm using, I get notifications for it. And it primes me to, oh, you have this thing to do. 30 minutes into this meeting, I'll get a notification on the next thing I have to do. So tech actually, I mean, integrates into my life in such a way that it helps me make time or apportion time for what I want to do. Now, sometimes there are things, I mean, you and I understand that things come up without our control. And those ones, you take care of it as and when you have to. And quickly, right after, I just go back to my calendar and my schedule, shift a few things here and there so that I can do what I want to do as a doctor, as a graphic designer, and somebody who wants to learn tech and how tech is revolutionizing the whole world and how we live our lives.
Nice job. It sounds like you're a very organized person, and you use different types of technology to circle around your plate, so you get trained better at all 3 of them, basically.
Yeah.
And then you're prepared, which is awesome. That's a great job. All right. What's your favorite way to use tech to make your life easy?
My favorite way of using tech has to do with the automations part of it. I mean, there are repetitive tasks we all do. And I think using automations is one of the best ways I really enjoy using tech, because for instance, I have, my day is kind of like predictable in a certain sense, aside things coming up. So I use Google Calendar. I like Google Calendar a lot because it seamlessly integrates into all the other operating systems and platforms that our tech devices run on. So I plan in Google Calendar, set notifications and all those things. And I automate whatever that follows after. So sometimes I look at my day, look at how predictable it is, look at my week, and then based on that, I set tasks and things that I have to do in the calendar in such a way that it is repetitive when it has to be repetitive. And those automations really work. Voice to text, voice to speech to text, and all those other tools that are in tech. I call Siri out. Siri opens my automations and shortcut apps to run tasks that ordinarily I would have to stretch my phone to pick it. And I mean, I know myself. I know how I'm vulnerable to doom scrolling. And so being able to set shortcuts and automations really helps me navigate my way around things easily without necessarily having to do the thing by touching the device, so that I'll end up wasting my time, sucking my time away, because time is too precious to be wasted. So when it comes to my favorite way of using tech is about setting automations, automating parts of my day and my life that can be automated, and then going ahead to do what really matters.
Very good. All right. Let's go to question number 3. How has the tech changed the way you learn and shared ideas?
It's amazing. I mean, for sharing and learning ideas, I think tech has been one of the most instrumental things. And I think that the single most important way it has is my ability to access so much resources or things that I really want to use in learning and sharing ideas, sometimes in just maximum like 5 clicks. So for instance, I have a Notion. I use Notion a lot. I use Google Calendar a lot. I use a couple of other apps like OneNote. And sometimes I have something tucked away and I'm like, damn, I don't really remember where this particular file or information is. But with just a keyword search from what I put away and just clicking, I'm able to find the information. And sometimes instead of just copying and pasting it in an email or something, I'll just share that particular page or a portion of that particular page with whoever that I want to reach, that, oh, just go through this piece of information. So recently, when I was working on my recent ebook, Why Advice Doesn't Work, I needed somebody to proofread it. I wrote it in OneNote. The person wasn't a OneNote person, but the person uses Notion. So I just copied the entire text, pasted it on Notion, and added the person to the page. And the person was easily able to edit the book, give me their perspective, add comments where comments needed to be added for clarifications to be made. And it's amazing. And instead of sometimes publishing straight to a blog or something, I can just write whatever I want to write and share the Notion web page. And I think it's an amazing way to learn new things. Instead of, like, I have websites that I learn from. Instead of going to the website, I'm able to copy the link, paste it in Notion, and I embed the entire page there. So any updates, I don't have to go directly to the site. I just open the Notion page, read whatever I want to read. And because the page is embedded, I create a tab around it where I can easily add my own notes without necessarily having to open a new page. I mean, just write on one page. I'm able to do a whole lot of things, share, learn, and it's amazing. If you don't remember, with just a search, you can find whatever you want to find. So I think tech has really revolutionized how I'm able to learn and access information that I need to make my life and my day very effective.
Yeah. I could go back in the old days where we had the big desktop computers where you had to carry them and stuff like that. I'm telling you what, those were a pain, a total pain. And then the flip phones.
Yeah, I mean, recently I was going to facilitate a session for a class with one of the senior lecturers we've been assigned to in the facility I work in. And I mean, there were a lot of information I really needed to go through. And she gave me a number of textbooks. I mean, you have to flip through pages to find information, manually go through table of content. It's like, damn, I can't do this. So I went to Google Scholar, went to a couple of publishing sites, accessed free books with the information that I needed. And I don't have to go through the entire table of content to find what I need. I just go find in book, find text, and I just key my keywords, access the information, make my notes. When I finished, I just printed it out, went to the class. It's just amazing how, I mean, it's changed the way we look at things. right now you can actually have the entire university library on your iPad, your tablet, phone, without necessarily having to go to the physical library. And it's amazing. You are going there only to have the peace and quiet environment to actually dig deep and go into the state of flow without necessarily going to pick hard copy books to look through, flip through countless of pages before you can actually access the information that you need. So tech, I mean, it's amazing how it's changing the way we learn and look at things.
Yeah, I was been here in Philadelphia for about 5.5, 6 years. And I used to visit the library the first 1 or 2 years I was here. And now, since I have all the stuff I have here, thank God I don't have to go there unless there's some significant outage or something within the area. I'm glad I don't have to leave because, oh, by the way, you got to sign up for this computer for half an hour, an hour. I don't know that. Like doing my own thing here. You know what I mean? It's everybody has their own way of doing it. Oh, I'd rather go to the library. Not me. I'd rather just work. There's my own libraries on this computer, phone, whatever, books. That's where it basically is. So yeah, everybody has a different way and a different approach with things. Okay, number 4. You are great at many things. How do you think your different interests affect your view of tech?
Well, I think the different things that I'm able to do affects the way I see tech. At first, I used to think that tech is actually like central point of my life, but I after using tech devices, I mean, for the past like 15 years of my life, since I started using computers and cell phones, I noticed that it's actually you and who you are, what you want to do. And if you're able to figure that part out, you are able to better use tech to make parts that can be automated easier. And then you go ahead to do what you have to do. And it makes me look at tech as an enabler, enabling me to do what I want to do. But I also look at it from another perspective, and that is it can actually enable you not to do anything at all, especially looking at the recent technology we have, the algorithm, the apps, and the systems that power them. So, I mean, I like to learn from different places and different sources. And there's this documentary I watch a couple of, at least once a year, The Social Dilemma. I mean, it helps me read through and rethink how to approach social media, because these apps are built with algorithms that will suggest the next thing, the next best thing, the things you are interested in, and taps into our inherent desire for satisfaction. And so I look at tech from two places, either to enable me to do what I want to do, or to enable me waste the time that I have to do what I have to do. And it's quite humbling because it helps you, tech actually helps you think. Sometimes when I look at these two perspectives and two extremes, it helps me think about myself and how I do things and how I put information out there. Because like it or not, I mean, I've been doing a couple of things and studies and research into tech. And I realized that once you put something in the digital frame into zeros and ones, it's never missing. I mean, you are leaving a digital footprint, kind of. And so it helps you look at tech from different perspectives. But it also helps you look at a central point where you realize that you actually are the source of how you are going to use it. And so how you use it determines the output it gives you. It's like those days when they started teaching us computers, garbage in, garbage out. If you put garbage in tech, you get garbage. And I think it's high time each and every one of us learned to who we are, identify ourselves as who we want to be, and then we approach tech. If you want to go to tech not knowing who you are, I mean, you end up kind of doing things that you really wish you hadn't done sometimes you even regret for the rest of your life.
Okay. Question number 5. What tech advancement are you most excited about for the future?
Well, currently, so in 2007, when Steve Jobs was introducing the iPhone, he made a statement in his presentation that has shaped the way I look at tech. He mentioned that those who care about software will build hardware that will power this software. And for me, it made me think a little bit about what tech really gets me excited. And I think right now it's microchips, because these parts of the devices we use is actually giving us the power to run whatever software we want to build, whatever automation we want to make. And I think it makes the future exciting. Like, we are anticipating the next big processing device that can power what we want to do as a species and as a generation and as a society as a whole. And I think right now we see the mass expansion of AI and new technologies and all. And I mean, you trace it back and you realize that it's the microchip. So recently, I think it was published on the exchange that NVIDIA, the chip producing company, is currently like the most valuable company in the world. It's all because of the products they making being the fundamental core of whatever technology that we are coming up with. And I think we for me, it's the technological device that makes me excited about the future, because we are anticipating the next big thing that is coming out of these companies and what they produce. And I for one, so I recently listened to one of these speakers in Africa. His name is Vusi Temikwayo, and he was saying we Africans are adopting every technology that is being produced. I mean, we are the early adopters. We are not innovators. And the only time we say we are innovating is when we've been able to integrate the tech that is being produced into our systems. And it made me think for some time, and I realized that, I mean, it's high time we learned how to produce some of these things ourselves as Africans and use it to champion what we really want to achieve. So it sparked some interest in me, and it makes me excited about the future that we have currently. I mean, what we have in the future, what will unfold, and what I will personally even do in my life with regards to tech and what I want to do in the future.
Yeah, every generation's different with how everybody grows. Like, for instance, we had the World Wide Web in 1993. Then we had IXZ something 2000, and then we had all this these flip phones. Then we had the iPhone. Then we had Windows. Every single time growing, and Mac. All these competitive companies. Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
All these other geeks trying to be competitive with all the technology and stuff. And then going online during the pandemic, having to use Google, having to use Zoom, and translate into doing online instead of actually going physically into a classroom, learning from a teacher.
Exactly.
And then changing everything to Google instead of going to Microsoft Office, which I had 25 years of experience, and then I had to use Google Docs and Google Sheets and stuff like that. Now that I've made the transition to that, I know how to use them all. Thank God. Because, I mean, I was so stubborn-headed, I was just, no, I wanted to use Microsoft Office. And the school said, you can't. You have to learn this. And I'm like, yay, So we go through different technological backgrounds where we have gaps, and you have to put it all together. You have to be open-minded to using learning technology, or you're not going to get anywhere. Or you're just too old school, and you're just too much into your own way, where you just want to physically write stuff down instead of using a printer or typing on a computer. Everybody's all, it's all really unbelievable. Everybody's so different.
Yeah, and what you said just reminds me of something now. There's this ongoing debate and conversation on the internet about AI replacing humans. I sit down and I'm like, it is one thing to say AI can do automated stuff. I mean, repetitive tasks that we do. We can program a bot, a humanoid robot to do it. But when it comes to human interaction, human exchange, and human connection, I mean, it is one thing AI cannot do, because this is something that is inherent in us, and it is the dire need of everybody, regardless of who you are, to actually have a connection with humans. I mean, sometimes I come to my apartment and I look at, I'm the only one coming home. I really want to connect, and sometimes it's, you pick a phone, you call somebody, and you realize that you still don't have that satisfaction until you see the person face to face. And so, I mean, it reminds me of the fact that, yes, I mean, we are using tech and we are integrating it into our lives. And I always say this, well, unless you want to, like you said, you want to be old school and irrelevant, stay where you are. Don't stick to the trends, and learn how the trends is going to change how we do things in the next 10, 20 years.
Yes,
I mean, it's interesting how AI is changing the way we do things. So recently I wrote something, I needed somebody to proofread it, and I wasn't getting the person. I just copied the text as it is and asked AI to help me identify. I didn't say it should do the proofreading for me. Identify the errors and suggest ways I can correct those errors. And I think it's pretty amazing how sometimes we can do things by ourselves in our own way without necessarily having to depend on a whole number of people or team to do it, just because we have AI at our hands. So like you mentioned, I mean, it's a good point that you mentioned, that we need to adopt these technologies and find ways to make it work for us instead of depending on it. That is one problem that a lot of people are facing. So I think last Wednesday, I was teaching a class and I asked them a question and they were using AI. And I told them their answers were wrong, and they were like, how? And I showed them where they were getting it all wrong, because the question I'm asking them is something practical right within their space. AI doesn't understand the language and the scenario that we are dealing with at that particular moment. How do you go to AI to answer the question I went to? So putting the answer in context, the answer was good, but in context, it didn't work. And so I was trying to let them understand that, I mean, we are all excited that we have these technologies coming to aid us, but we shouldn't be so much engrossed in it that we fail to see how it fits into the context that we find ourselves. And I think it's one way that makes the future exciting, especially the conversation around AI replacing humans, because no matter how good the algorithms, the code, the artificial general intelligence that we are getting to will get, it still will not replace the fact that we are humans and there are some things only humans can actually do.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question here, because I just recently tried it. Okay, so you're a teacher teaching a class, right? Are you teaching them to write different papers at all using AI by chance?
You said?
Are you teaching them to use AI to how to write papers by chance? Would you encourage them to use AI to write a paper?
No, I am not teaching them to use AI to write a paper. I mean, I ran a couple of, whenever they submit their papers, what I do is I just go to anti-AI detection softwares and I run their text through it. And if your text has a percentage of about 20%, it means your text is like mostly AI generated. And sometimes, you see, AI generated text has a certain pattern. And there is a regular human conversation way of speaking that is always integrated into the way we write. When that part is missing, I mean, when I'm reading your paper and I see that that part is missing, I get to know that this is AI generated. And I submit your text to the AI. It actually shows me that your text has parts or most parts written by AI, and you'll be penalized for it. You have to rewrite the whole paper, this time around under supervision.
Okay, so I want to have a fun teacher-student argument here. Here's what I want to bring you here. Okay, so here's the thing, just a friendly one. AI is a paraphrasing tool. It should not be, you should not be penalized for detecting what's wrong with that. You're still using the author's name. You're still using it and rewording it differently. You're not copying and pasting all of it. You know what I mean?
So I get where you're coming from, but I mean, if I don't know if you've dealt with students in this part of the world before. I I've been a student once. I used AI. I think in my final thesis, there was this statement, no matter how I rewrote it, the paraphrasing software still caught it that, I mean, I've plagiarized, and I didn't actually know what to do. So I suggested, I gave AI the text to look at that particular statement and all the options that I wrote. And I asked it to show me how to better paraphrase the text. And it showed me, and I rewrote it myself again. And it turns out it wasn't picked by the detection to turn it in. That's what my university uses. And so I'm not saying you using it in that way, but you forming your ideas. Okay. You know, every paper you are writing is trying to answer a question. And it needs to meet an objective. And so for most of the students that I have dealt with, when AI writes, some of them use it from beginning to the end, and they make AI generate the text from beginning to the end. And sometimes their references, you see, AI is not, some of the AI we have or we are exposed to does not have the capacity to actually generate text in a way and in a manner that meets the objective that you really want to achieve. And so when you submit your text, we look at it when I look at it with my senior lecturers, we tend to like kind of look at your objective and the text you've written. Are they in sync? Is it answering the objective that you set out to answer? Because sometimes the essay and the papers that they submit, they choose their own topic to write on. And so it needs to meet, and that is where we actually get them penalized. I mean, we don't mind you paraphrasing a couple of texts with AI. I mean, like I said, we are all not, no matter how good you are at writing, sometimes there are some things you always mess out. But using it to actually write your whole text and be putting it in context of what you are trying to address in relation to what you've written and your objective, and they not being in sync, that is where we get to realize that you are not being fair to what you are trying to write, and you get penalized for doing that.
Now that is fair. I can say after about 26 years of being a student teacher and, you know, on that rating stuff, yeah, it gets to a fine line. Like, I'm sure you're familiar with the software Grammarly, right?
Yeah.
And you use AI and it shows in the picture, hey, it's down to 2%. I shouldn't have any problem handing this paper in. But then there's also where it becomes an issue now where you might have your regular plagiarism under 2%, but then you got these new softwares out there that contain that AI, and there's been people that have been reported for plagiarism because of using AI. But to me, if I'm using AI for a research paper and I want to restructure it a little bit, 1, 2, 3 paragraphs, I see that. But then if you're paraphrasing, there's nothing wrong with it, in my opinion. But you know what? Of course, hey, everybody has a different opinion on it. You have to be careful, especially if you're in a doctoral program or any type of program, because you're catching up to it fast.
Yeah. So I think recently we submitted a paper for publication, and the publisher asked us to make a few reviews, and one of the reviewers said a part of our text was generated by AI. I was like, damn, it was written by us. So
Yeah.
they told us to run the test ourselves at our end using a set. We ran it and they saw that, oh, it was really written by us. And it was like, I mean, it's becoming a problem writing these days, because I mean, what is the evidence that you actually did the work? So we had to add a couple of pictures to the paper itself to really validate the point that we did the work and it wasn't just manufactured data, manufactured stuff, so that we could just get our name in the publishing space. And I think it's necessary. Like you said, there's a thin line between it. If you are just using it for a few paraphrasing, that's fine. But if you are going to let it do the heavy duty work, then that's where the problem is.
Absolutely, yeah. There's even 20 years ago, 20, 25 years ago, when people tried to paraphrase, use different types of research paper, they were on top of it. They were on top of it. No, totally. I mean, you have to get this straightened out to below a certain amount. And sometimes people will be quickly to do papers. Oh, I need to go to EBSCO and use this database. I need to go to Google Scholar and use a Google Scholarly article. Or I want to try to use books. You know, some assignments, like in the doctoral program, you can't do that. You have to use peer-reviewed journal articles in it to back your ideas up instead of using the books, which I just recently learned. I said I couldn't believe it. I'm like, are you serious? Books are just as good as peer reviews. I went into previous PhD programs, doctoral programs, and never had one problem with it. Now they say, oh, that's something new we're doing. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess got to do it, right?
And even some papers give you a year range. So instead of like maybe you can reference from any peer review, they will tell you within the past 30 years. So whatever you are submitting should be in 30-year frame, and that's sometimes it's hard because it's hard finding a paper that speaks to the point you are trying to raise. I mean, after searching a couple of these academic journal databases, you barely sometimes find some. But I mean, it's a process, and I mean, I understand them because these are ways of also protecting the integrity of the academic space. I mean, we don't want anything out there that is not validated, or I mean, it's like that. It's a security function or a security measure being taken to protect, because I mean, somebody will go to the internet, pick these papers and make a policy out of it. And so if the information or whatever you are using or you are putting out there is not something that can be authenticated, then let's protect generations. I mean, it's I don't know, but a few years back we heard we shouldn't eat this food, it contains that, and researchers say a few years after, researchers will come out and say this and that, and you're asking yourself, I mean, where's the contradiction coming from? So these are things, and people make policies out of all these things. So I think it's a cool feature, a cool measure that is being taken in. I really side with the journals that are doing it.
Wow. Okay. Well, this has definitely been a thrilling interview and a thrilling podcast show. Learning more about you and then responding back and then challenging you a little bit with that rating part there because we don't go through it. But every country's different with how they do their grading and college and all those policies and procedures and rules and regulations. Trust me, I'm running into it. Even I got an MBA 2023, but I was like 12 some years last time I went and did the degree and had to learn and touch up on stuff so fast it wasn't funny. But anyways, yes, I'd like to get your contact information and send you a review link for the show and you review it. And there are other guests who have done it as well. It just boosts up like, hey, this is how I feel about it, blah, 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 and go from there.
Okay.
So let me get your information. I'm going to add it into WhatsApp here. What is your, oh, that's a bunch of stuff popping up in the phone. Okay. No. Okay. What is your phone number so I can put this in my phone?
+233
Yep.
24 35 74 632.
Yep. Got it. All right. So what I'll do is actually right now I'll go ahead and do it. Stick here. And it was definitely a pleasure to have a guest like you on the show because, hey, I mean, we need to learn off our young folks, younger generation. Because the way the world is, people think just the younger generation, or especially in the U.S. here, with the increase in violence and younger activity. It's good to see that a lot of people that I've interviewed on this show, most of them have actually been young, but I've had a couple of older people. But it's good to see that the younger generation is actually using the technology for a better thing instead of a disadvantage thing.
Yeah.
Let me get this up here. Okay, so there'll be a review link going into WhatsApp right there, right now. And when you get time to do that, more reviews, the better it looks on me. Highly prefer 5-star, but of course, if you thought the show was terrible, you can give me a 1.
Okay, sure. I'll give you a review for them.
Yeah, and once again, it was a privilege meeting you, and this will be up on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. I'm going to try to start getting the video episodes of TikTok, but it's
Okay.
a process. So yes, it was definitely glad to have you a guest on the show, and getting up at 7 a.m. in the morning. And what time is it your time there? Almost noon?
Yeah, an afternoon.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. No problem at all. Pleasure meeting you, sir, and have a great day. Thank you.
You too.